My name is Laura Morgan. I'm 41. And at my cousin's wedding, my father tapped his champagne glass and used his toast to humiliate me. He praised the groom, a Navy officer, then turned the spotlight on me. My daughter likes to pretend she's Navy too. But, really, she just shuffles papers at a desk. Then he smirked, adding, "At least she found steady work somewhere, even if it's not what we hoped for." Laughter rippled, my cheeks burned. 20 years of silence boiled up inside me. But what he didn't know? Someone else in that room knew exactly who I was, and he wasn't about to stay quiet. Because the truth is, that night wasn't the first time. My father decided I was less than I really was, and the lie he told in that room was about to collapse right on top of him. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel, and let us know where you are listening in the comments. My father's words at the wedding weren't new. They were just louder, sharper, wrapped in a champagne toast. I had been living under his shadow for decades. When I earned my appointment to the Naval Academy, he told everyone I was lucky, not capable. On the night I packed my bags for Annapolis, he muttered, 6 months maybe, before you wash out. When I survived plebe summer, scraped my way through sleepless nights, and stood proud in uniform, he shook his head. Don't get comfortable. You'll never make it in submarine school. Women don't. When I earned my submarine warfare pin, I came, home beaming, gold dolphin insignia still warm against my chest. He barely glanced at it. A participation trophy, he said before turning back to the TV. Every milestone I reached became another chance for him to move the goalpost. When I made lieutenant, he shrugged. Most people make lieutenant. It's nothing special. When I was promoted to lieutenant commander, he snorted. That's probably where you'll hit the ceiling. Women can't handle command. Not real command. It wasn't just him. The rest of the family took his words as gospel. At barbecues, Aunt Carol whispered, "She's good with paperwork." At Christmas, my cousins laughed. At least Laura's indoors. Not dangerous like the real Navy. Every time I tried to share my achievements, they twisted them into proof of failure. Eventually, I stopped bringing it up. Silence was easier than begging for pride they would never give me, and the silence spread. At reunions, I smiled politely, changed the subject, let them believe I was small. Inside, though, the weight built up, layer after layer, of being underestimated until my own family didn't know me at all. That wedding toast wasn't a surprise. It was just the final cut in a series of small, precise wounds that had been carving me down for years. But that night, someone else decided my silence had lasted long enough. The reception hall glittered with lights, but I sat at a corner table, invisible in my plain navy dress. Dad's toast still echoed in my head, each word cutting deeper than champagne bubbles. Aunt Carol leaned in, loud enough for others. Didn't she drop out of the academy? My stomach clenched. Dad nodded. She couldn't handle the pressure. Some people just aren't cut out for military life. The words spread like spilled wine. Laughter. Pity. The kind of looks that sting longer than insults. Told myself to breathe, to stay silent, to endure. But silence suffocates. Every sideways glance pressed heavier against my ribs. I reached for water, throat too tight, for wine. That's when James, the groom himself, appeared beside my table. "Ma'am," he said quietly. "Could I speak with you? Privately?" Startled, I followed him toward the bar, away from curious eyes. He hesitated, rubbing his neck like a nervous ensign. "Commander." He stopped, corrected. "I'm sorry, I don't know how you prefer to be addressed off duty." My heart skipped. "Excuse me? You are Commander Laura Morgan, right? CO of USS Hartford?" The air left my lungs. "How do you know that?" James's jaw tightened. "Because I've been in briefings with you for months. I'm engineering officer aboard USS New Hampshire. I didn't recognize you out of uniform, but when your father mocked your name, I knew." I froze, struggling to merge tuxedoed groom with the naval officer I'd seen in meetings. "Mitchell," I whispered. "You usually go by Jim in the wardroom." He nodded. "Yes, ma'am. Does your family really not know who you are?" "Apparently not," I said softly. "But you're CO of a Virginia-class submarine, 22 years of service. Bronze Star. I've seen your record. How do they not know?" I swallowed. "Because I never told them. Every time I tried, they cut me down until I stopped." James stared. "With respect, your father just told 200 people you're a clerk, and you're not going." To say anything? It's easier this way. They don't believe me, they never have. Sarah appeared, smiling. Laura, are you having fun? Jim? Why so formal? She's family. James forced a smile. Habit, he muttered. Sarah drifted away, but James stayed rooted, eyes fixed, on the head table, where my father still laughed. Excuse me, James said suddenly, voice low, determined. Before I could stop him, he strode back toward the crowd. I knew that look. I'd seen it in sailors. Before a storm. I thought I could survive with silence. But James had just declared war on it. The crowd hummed with laughter and clinking glasses as James strode toward the head table. My pulse thudded. I wanted to stop him, but my feet stayed. Dad leaned back in his chair, grinning, unaware of the storm heading straight at him. James bent down, spoke low, and Dad's grin faltered. Guests nearby noticed. Uncle Mike leaned in. Aunt Patricia paused mid-sentence, curiosity sparking across faces. Dad's voice rose, half defensive. That can't be right, you're mistaken. James stood tall, voice carrying. Sir, with respect, your daughter is Commander Laura Morgan, commanding officer of USS Hartford, Virginia-class attack submarine. The reception hushed instantly. Forks froze midair. Someone gasped. Dad stumbled up, face pale. What are you saying? You toasted her as a clerk, James continued firmly. But she commands a billion-dollar submarine and 100 guns, 35 sailors. I've served under many officers, and none earned loyalty like she has. All eyes turned to me. Heat surged up my neck. I could have denied it, slipped away, stayed, hidden. But silence had already cost me enough. That's correct, I said, steady. I am CO of USS Hartford. Mouths dropped. Aunt Carol whispered. Impossible. A cousin muttered. She dropped out, didn't she? Dad's lips moved, searching. For excuses. She never told us. Because you never asked. I cut in. Because 20 years ago you decided I was a failure and no proof ever changed your mind. The room rippled with whispers. Sarah looked at me, shocked. Carol's cheeks flushed. Even Vera, my stepmother, shifted, uneasily in her chair. Dad stammered, Laura, I didn't mean. Didn't mean? My voice cracked louder than I intended. You stood in front of 200 people and erased everything I've spent my life building. You reduced 22 years of service to a joke. Silence hung heavy. James broke it. Commander Morgan has bronze stars, submarine warfare pins, classified operations under her belt, and yet her own family mocks her. The sting of truth settled. Relatives who'd laughed earlier now stared at Dad. His authority, his pride, crumbled. He opened his mouth again, but James, only hours ago, just family, stood taller, eyes burning. I will not let this lie stand. The wedding hall felt smaller. Whispers no longer carried pity. They carried disbelief and dawning respect. And for the first time, I wasn't just invisible. I was undeniable. But exposing the truth was only the beginning. The real confrontation was still waiting. The silence in the hall wasn't just heavy, it was crushing. Dozens of eyes locked on me, waiting to see if I'd retreat or finally rise. For 22 years, I'd let Dad narrate my story. Tonight, that ended. I stepped forward, heels clicking against the floor. Enough, I said, sharp but steady. You've diminished me for decades. Tonight, in front of everyone, the truth will stand. Dad tried to speak, but I raised my hand. Not this time. You've told your version long enough. Now they hear mine. I pulled a folded program from my purse. The same. One Dad waved earlier. On its back, I'd written notes, dates, citations, command selection, bronze star commendations, deployment records, proof in my own hand. You said I dropped out of the academy. Wrong. I graduated top third of my class. You said I couldn't handle submarine school. Wrong. I passed every qualification on schedule. You said women couldn't lead. Wrong. I command 135 sailors who would follow. Me anywhere. Gasps rippled. A cousin covered her mouth. Uncle Mike nodded, eyes glinting with shame. Dad's face tightened. Laura, this isn't the place. This is exactly the place, I cut in. Humiliated me here. You chose this stage, so now they get the truth. My voice sharpened. Every award you dismissed, every sacrifice you ignored. I bled, fought, commanded, and you erased me. James stepped beside me, silent but solid. I didn't need him to speak. I had my own voice. Now, I turned to the guests. I don't need applause. I don't need validation. I've proven myself in the deepest waters on earth. But I won't let lies define me anymore. Dad's hand trembled. For the first time, he looked small. Laura, please. Please what? Pretend again? Sit quietly while you rewrite. My life? No, tonight I reclaim it. The crowd stirred. Aunt Patricia whispered, "She's right." Sarah's eyes filled with tears, caught between pride and sorrow. I faced Dad. You built your pride on dismissing me, but pride built on lies doesn't last. Tonight, you answer for it. His lips quivered, but no words came. The man, who once towered over me, looked fragile, stripped of authority. I drew a breath, then delivered the line I'd waited years to say. I don't need you to be proud of me. I already am. The hall erupted. Some clapped, some murmured, some sat stunned. But all of them saw it. The daughter Dad tried to erase had risen. And when the dust settled, the question remained. What came next for me and for him? The applause faded, but the shift lingered. For once, the weight wasn't on my shoulders, it was on his. Dad sat, eyes down. The man who'd towered my whole life suddenly reduced to silence. I stepped back from the center, letting the crowd settle. My pulse slowed, not from defeat but release. For 22 years, I'd carried their doubt like ballast. Now I was lighter. Outside, the night air was cool against my skin. I walked alone past glowing lanterns, voices muffled behind me. For the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. I felt whole. At my car, I pulled the wedding program from my purse. The notes I'd scribbled. Dates, medals, deployments. Proof of a life they never cared to know. I folded it once, slid it into the glove box, and closed it with finality. It wasn't revenge I wanted. It was clarity. I'd found it. My worth had never been theirs, to grant or withhold. It had been mine all along, anchored in the quiet strength of choices no one else saw. Later that week, an email arrived. Formal. Official. Promotion confirmed. Captain Laura Morgan, to take command of USS Virginia. I didn't forward it to family. I didn't post it online. I just read it twice, smiled, and let it rest. Healing isn't a spotlight moment. It's quiet, steady, like breathing after surfacing from deep water. Tonight, I finally breathed. Back in my apartment, I opened an old drawer. Inside lay a compass my grandfather once gave me. Find your true north, he'd said. I held it, now steady in my palm. The needle quivered, then settled. So had I. I don't know if Dad will ever ask again, or if my family will learn how to see me beyond their old story. But I know this. I am done shrinking to fit their comfort. Sometimes the only way to win is not proving them wrong, but proving yourself right. Have you ever had to walk away from family's approval just to finally respect yourself? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. And if this one spoke to you, don't forget to subscribe for more true stories that echo strength inside us.